action track left a few tempers flared. Round 14 hits the Irish Hills for a double bill Brooklyn bout. Ernie Irvin found redemption in last year's Miller 400. Now the veteran racer is tied for 14th in points and looks to Michigan to turn things up.
The Skittles Pontiac seems to perform well every week. We're just doing everything we can to get it to the next level and be able to get our finishers up to the top 5. And because when you start finishing the top 5, then you can be in a position to win a race.
His focus is the '98 Busch Series title run. But after a little taste of Cup, Buckshot's jonesing for the big leagues.
Just getting in the Cup cars, getting a feel for them. They gave me a great car at Dover, and it run really good. And, you can't say enough about that, but you need as much experience as you can in a Cup car.
Plus, we'll sit down with legendary team owner Junie Dunleavy, and Mark Martin rides the inside line. It's Miller time in Michigan. The rematch is set.
And you're going inside NASCAR.
Good morning, everybody, and glad you could join us here on Inside NASCAR. A doubleheader of racing for you today as both the Busch and Cup Series are in action. The trucks have the week off. It's going to be an interesting race in Michigan today. 1 week removed from taking out Jeff Gordon in Richmond, Rusty was involved in a happy hour crash with, of all people, Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt had to go to a backup car after making first-round qualifying for just the 3rd time all year. For the shakedown on that as well as the rest of the news, let's check in with Ned Jarrett and Phil Wurz. Guys, take it away.
Well, thanks, Tyler. I'm joined here at the Michigan Speedway by Phil Wurz. We're on top of the media center where everything is getting ready for the Miller Lite 400 this afternoon, a race that you can see live on CBS television. Should be a great race. Phil, a lot of news this week, and I guess heading the list is that big crew chief switch at the Richard Childress organization.
Absolutely, and Ned, as you know, communication between driver and crew chief is critical, and although the 3 team won the Daytona 500, they have been struggling, as has the 31 team for most of this season. And while on Saturday on Inside NASCAR, we heard from Larry McReynolds and Richard Childress here in the garage in Michigan, we got Kevin Hamlin's take on that crew chief change.
Hopefully, the next couple weeks get stronger and stronger with that and be able to improve and get a feel that he's looking for. That's what this is all about. See if we can't come up with something that he's looking for.
And talk about can't buy a break. After qualifying 25th Friday, during happy hour Saturday, Rusty Wallace takes out Dale Earnhardt about halfway through the session. Earnhardt limps the 3-car back to the garage, gets out, and storms into Wallace's garage stall. Earnhardt had some words for Rusty, and later Wallace admitted all fault, but Earnhardt will now start 43rd.
I'll take the blame for the whole deal. My car was really running strong. Dale was running strong. Came down the front straightaway. I got to the inside of him. I went down and turn 1 side by side with him, and simply the rear end just got off underneath me. I got the car loose. And when I got it loose, I got up into his left rear tire, and that was it. There's no nothing to it. We were racing, went down in the corner, and I got loose. It was my fault because I was just too aggressive. It was the wrong time to be trying something like that.
Elsewhere in the garage, Jeff Green pilots the number 46 First Union Chevy this weekend. Meanwhile, his brother David is still trying to figure out his release by team owner Buzz McCall and the number 96 Caterpillar team.
Yeah, I felt confident that we would finish out the year, and that was my goal, to give 110% throughout the end of the year, because it looked obvious that we both needed to take a different direction, but I was focused in the race car to do the best I can.
Hutch Strickland is in the 96 car as he barely made the field for the Miller Lite 400. This will be Hutch's first Cup event since Martinsville 6 races ago. With Buckshot Jones running at Pikes Peak, Morgan Shepherd will drive the Circuit City Monte Carlo for the Stavola brothers. This will be Shepherd's first race since finishing 24th at Fontana. And after 9 races with Randy LaJoie, Wally Dellenbach steps into the Budweiser Chevy for Hendrick Motorsports. A scheduling conflict for LaJoie has provided the opportunity for Dellenbach, who will run his first Cup race since a 29th at Fontana. He will also run the 50 car at Pocono and Sears Point. Ricky Craven is expected back in the Budweiser Chevy later this summer, but will test at Watkins Glen this week in preparation for a Busch Series race there in 2 weeks as it returns from the effects of post-concussion syndrome. And don't expect Greg Sachs back at Daytona for the Pepsi 400. Cale Yarborough confirms Sachs is just not ready as he continues to recover from injuries he suffered at Texas.
He's still having some problems with his arm, and you know, to come back not 100%, we don't think that's the right thing to do right now. So Rich will be in the car in Daytona.
And one final news item. Steve Park's recovery from his injuries at Atlanta are going very, very well. And Ned, so well so that the Pennzoil team plans on testing at the Brickyard July 13th, 14th, and 15th. Obviously all in preparation for his return to Winston Cup racing for the Brickyard 400.
Well, I know the fans are anxious to see him get back behind the wheel, and so is he.
Absolutely.
Hey, folks, there's another race going on this afternoon. The NASCAR Busch Series is at the Pikes Peak International Raceway in Colorado, and our Stephanie Boyd-Durner is there.
Thanks, guys. Well, with the Winston Cup Tour in action at Michigan, the NASCAR Busch Series is the headline act here at the Pikes Peak International Raceway, which kicks off its second season of operation here this weekend with the first ever running of the Busch Series. The inaugural Lycos.com 250 gets underway at 4 o'clock Eastern, but don't be surprised if the starting lineup is a little confusing. When we first got here this weekend, there weren't enough cars to complete the 43-car field, so several teams pulled out their backup machines, found additional drivers to put in them, and that's not to mention the substitutions that we were already seeing for the Cup guys who are at Michigan. So, get your scorecards ready. Car owner Doug Taylor will be in the 04, a backup to his number 40 channel-up machine, which is normally driven by Kevin LePage, but had Stanton Barrett behind the wheel this weekend. Mark Green's Timberwolf team has Johnny Chapman in one of its cars marked 87, and Rick Corelli will drive his second James Finch car with the number 41. Curtis Markham fills in for Dick Trickle this weekend in the Schneider National Chevy, while truck regular Ron Hornaday takes over for Robert Presley. In a surprising move, Jimmy Kitchens is substituting for Jimmy Foster in the Dr. Pepper Ford. Foster has been out of the car since injuring his foot in a crash at Texas. However, he was medically cleared to return to driving on Monday, but team officials decided he wasn't ready.
Yeah, I feel I was capable of coming back. I mean, my foot feels fine. I mean, I'm not having any problems. A little bit of a limp, but that's just with the walking. You know, as far as braking and everything goes, I think I'm fine as far as the clutch.
Things are definitely looking up for Bobby Hillen, who announced this weekend that he's finally secured a primary sponsor. Clean Shower has signed on through the end of 1999. Because the Lycos.com 250 is an inaugural event, every driver here starts this race with a clean slate. Now, the teams did get an extra day to practice on Thursday, and by all accounts, the drivers are pleased. As for how they'll fare under race conditions, well, we'll find that out later this afternoon. Tyler, back to you.
All right, Stephanie, thank you, and thanks to Ned and Phil in Michigan. Hey, don't you go anywhere because we're going to set the field for today's races. We'll head back to Michigan and Colorado when we return. You're watching Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR is brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that whenever you feel good, it's Miller time.
Ward Burton is on the pole today in Michigan. It's his first pole of the year. Quite a feat considering he's never started better than 15th in the Irish Hills. Behind him in row 2 is Rusty, and guess who's starting next to him? Jeff Gordon. Can you say payback after last week's crash in Richmond? Here's Ned and Phil now with all the rest of your qualifying.
Well, thanks again, Tyler. Bud Pole qualifying was held here at the Michigan Speedway on Friday afternoon, and Phil, weather plays a big part in the speed of the race cars here at the Michigan Speedway. Just a little bit of a change makes a world of difference in the speed.
Absolutely right. And early on the qualifying session on Friday, Ned, hot and kind of slick, and then we had a tornado watch later in the afternoon, so some clouds moved in, and we all know that Mother Nature can be very cruel, but it was pretty kind to Ward Burton. And it was a very windy day for qualifying, too, which did affect some drivers. Dale Jarrett was the 8th car out, and after being 4th in Friday's practice session, he grabbed the early pole with a time of 39.733 seconds. Ward Burton got his chance as storm clouds moved in. The cover allowed the track to cool briefly enough for Burton to secure the pole. He was fastest in practice and a transfer to qualifying. Burton's time, 39.656 seconds, good enough for his 4th career pole.
You got a good cloud cover right as before you went out. Did that help you in any way?
Well, Mother Nature played in my hand today, but, you know, Charlotte, Atlanta, California, all 3 times was bad drawing, going out either too late or too early and missed a shot at the pole, so Mother Nature was shining on us today.
Provisionals go to Chad Little, Dick Trickle, Steve Grissom, Robert Presley, Mike Skinner, Kyle Petty, and Hutch Strickland. Going home, Derek Koch, Tony Raines, Dave Marcus, and Top O'Dine. Interesting, Ned, how things work out in NASCAR. Last week at Richmond, Jeff Gordon on the outside of Rusty Wallace. We all know what happened. They start beside each other again today on row 2. Mark Martin starts 7th, but don't let that fool you. Same car here at Michigan that he won with at Las Vegas, Texas, and California.
Yeah, he should be the one to beat this afternoon. Well, there was qualifying on Friday also at the Busch race in Colorado. Stephanie Boyd-Durner has that report.
Well, guys, when Matt Kenseth won his first career Busch Series race at Rockingham in February, new sponsor Lycos rewarded him by coming on board full-time. Well, in qualifying here at Pikes Peak on Friday, Kenseth returned the favor, claiming his first career Busch Series pole in the race that bears his sponsor's name. In practice, Kenseth was second only to Joe Bessie for fast time, but Bessie was consistently number 1. And when he went out 10th, the power team driver set the fast time to beat. But Kenseth was the next driver on the track, and his lap of 26.827 was over 1/10 of a second faster, putting the Lycos driver on the pole for the inaugural Lycos 250. Must feel pretty good, first career pole in the race that your sponsor is sponsoring.
Yeah, that's cool to be on the pole for the Lycos 250 there, but I thank Lycos and Tempest Resorts, and man, they built an awesome racetrack here. This is like every racer's dream to come here. It's got real big corners, but, you know, short straightaways. So I'm really looking forward to the race. The Riser Enterprise guys did a great job giving me a good car, and when they're that good, they're pretty easy to drive.
Despite having won the IRL race at Pikes Peak last season, Tony Stewart qualified 11th, while Elliott Sadler rolls off 18th, even though he's the only driver who tested at the track. Points leader Mike McLaughlin enters this event with only a 9-point advantage over Kenseth in the standings. He starts 16th, while Dale Earnhardt Jr. qualified 5th. And Ron Hornaday had an impressive showing in the Robert Presley machine to start 3rd behind Kenseth and Bessie. Tyler, one thing these guys had to make sure of before qualifying is that their motors had been adjusted to compensate for a loss of horsepower caused by the altitude here in Colorado. But a lot of people have said that's nothing compared to the loss of horsepower they felt personally while sightseeing at Pikes Peak, some 14,000 feet above sea level.
It must have been something. Thanks, Steph. All right, guys, great job by all of you this week. And that's a wrap for this segment of the show. Coming up, the feature portion, including our in-focus profile on Ernie Irvan and Ryan Pemberton. As we leave you, here's a look at the first 5 rows for the Miller 400. I'll see you next week from Pocono. Take care, everybody.
Welcome back to the feature portion of Inside NASCAR. I'm Ned Jarrett along with Tyler Potter. And Tyler, coming off a 3/4-mile track at Richmond International Raceway and going to the 2-mile track at Michigan, difference in the concept, certainly a lot of close racing last weekend.
It's going to be tough to top it this weekend. Boy, what a race last week. The last 30 laps really got exciting with all the cautions and the red flag. And, of course, the way it finished up with Terry winning. It could have gone either way, but it's Terry's first win of 98.
Well, a little controversy. You might not see that at the Michigan International Speedway. It's a wide racetrack, several racing grooves. Now, they can run close together there, but the speeds are much higher than they are at a track like Michigan. And who better to take us around the inside line around the Michigan Speedway than Mark Martin?
Michigan is an awesome oval racetrack. I mean, it is just great to drive on. When you come across the start-finish line, the whole front straightaway is a D shape. When you enter turn 1, it's a wide, feeling flat looking corner. And you can carry a lot of speed down into that corner, and you can swing wide and then turn down. Banking in turn 1 and 2 is sort of flat and gradually gets more and more banking. Really good for racing because there's less stick on the bottom, even though it's shorter around, and more stick up high, but it's further around. You can have 2 cars that go through there and look real different, but when they exit the corner, they come back together. As you go down the back stretch and enter turn 3, there's a flat part of the racetrack right before you go into the banking that makes the car want to slide a little bit. The back end want to come out from under it. And then when you come into the banking, the car settles down. At that point, you can jerk the steering wheel left, and if you're handling as good as we usually are, you can slam it to the floor and hold it wide open from that point all the way through the turn and back around to the start-finish line.
Well, thanks, Mark, and good luck to you on Sunday. You know, Tyler, the Michigan Speedway is one of my favorite tracks to watch a race and to work a race because it's good and wide, they run fast speeds, but they also can run close together, and always a lot of good competition there. Now let's change gears. One of the grandest guys in motorsports is Junie Donlevy, who owns the Howlick Myers Fords, which are driven by Dick Trickle in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. I don't think there's anybody in the garage area that commands more respect than Junie Donlevy, and nobody's been around longer than he has, and he's had a lot of different race drivers to drive for him over the years.
65 to be exact. Now, that's a lot of guys. Some of the drivers most recently, Bobby Hillin, Ken Schrader, Ricky Rudd. His current driver, Dick Trickle, I'm not sure how many people know about this. He drove one race for Junie back in 1976.
Well, he has had a lot of different ones. Well, Phil Wurz caught up with Junie this past weekend at the Richmond International Raceway.
It's great to see you. Looking good. How you feeling?
I'm feeling real good, and I'll tell you one thing, the people that have sent me the flowers and the cards and the fruit baskets and the calls, and I tell you, it's just been unbelievable what they have done, and the good people that are out there that think about you and pray for you and all, they really make the difference.
Now, of course, NASCAR is celebrating its 50th anniversary, and you've been a part of this sport as an owner for 48 now, Junie. You have seen so much come and go and change in this sport. What has it been like to be a part of this thing called NASCAR for 48 years?
To look back over from the start of NASCAR until now, and to realize that basically I've known each and every one of those drivers and so many crewmen, and I just wouldn't take anything at all for what I have experienced now from 1950 until now.
You've been known as an owner who's been able to give young drivers a chance to see if they can get behind the wheel and actually become a good Winston Cup driver. Maybe not present driver included, but in the past you have given young drivers a chance. Was that by design, or is that just the way it's played out for you?
I really love to work with young drivers, and we fought through lots and lots of years without the big sponsors and not having the money to be a frontline runner. And I understand how those rookies feel, and I would love to do that now. It's so many good drivers out there that all they need is an opportunity, and it just breaks my heart when I know that they are there and they will never get the opportunity.
Now, Jody Ridley produced your only win in more than 700 Winston Cup, now known as Winston Cup Racing starts. Is that disappointing for you? Did you wish you had more wins and at least a championship?
No, because they've been a part of everything that's happened. I enjoy seeing Jeff Gordon or Dale Earnhardt, those guys win today almost as much as if I was winning my own self. So I just enjoy the sport that much, and again, I say that if all I had wanted to do was just win, I'd been gone a long time ago.
When they named the 50 greatest drivers in NASCAR history down at Daytona, 13 of them have driven for Junie Donlevy. That's 26%. How proud are you of that?
Very much so. I am very proud of it, and to have worked with them and to have enjoyed that company, and boy, you just wouldn't believe how good some of them were.
One of the most caring people I've ever met in my life.
He gives off a sense of fairness and sportsmanship.
I think that he's one of the big pioneers of the sport, big reason why the sport is what it is today.
Junie, as long as you've been a part of this sport for so long, almost a half a century with NASCAR, have you given much thought to how much longer you want to be a part of the sport and stay active in it?
As long as I can get up on top of the hall, I'll be a part of it. That's all I can tell you. I enjoy going because I have made so many good friends at the track. The competitors that were in this game when I first started, they're all such fine people. And you hear about, well, this guy will help you and this guy won't help you. In Winston Cup or Winston Cup racing, they'll all help you at any time that you ever need help. And it just really makes you feel good to be involved in a sport.
Well, thanks, Phil. Tyler, it'd be interesting to know how many race cars that Junie Donlevy has actually fielded over the years. We know how many race drivers that he's fielded cars for. But, you know, of those 65 drivers that have driven his race cars, I think that I know most of them, and I have never heard one of them say anything negative about Junie Donlevy.
How fitting for us to do a story, Ned, on Junie in this 50th anniversary of NASCAR, kind of paying tribute to the man because he has just been just a great ambassador to the sport.
And who can ever forget that one victory that he had at Dover, Delaware back in the 70s with Jody Ridley at the wheel. It was a very popular win. All the crews came out on pit road, and boy, it was a celebration. Maybe he could get one more. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Sure would.
Well, maybe it'll happen one day. Hey, we'll be back with more on Inside NASCAR right after this. Jason Keller is one of the regulars in the NASCAR Busch Series. He's been around for several years and had some good runs, and 1998 going pretty well for him, even though he doesn't have a sponsor.
Going great, yeah, and that's the amazing thing, Ned. He's in the top 10 in points. It's his 5th season in the Busch Series. He's having a great year.
Now, maybe his qualifying efforts hasn't been as good as he would have liked, but he seems to be able to turn it around on race day. Phil Wurz has his story.
Almost 3 years ago, Jason Keller was on top of the world after winning his first and only NASCAR Busch Series race at Indianapolis Raceway Park. But from that moment through the 1997 season, it was a struggle on and off the track for the 28-year-old South Carolina native.
About the middle part of the season last year, I really took a close look at how I could progress my career, and the ownership role that I was playing was really taking its toll on me as a driver. And I talked to some other owners here, and they were wanting to start more teams, and thought those things were really going to happen, go through, but certain circumstances didn't allow them to go through, and really I was actually bummed out, didn't know what I was going to do, and really wanted to stick to my guns that I needed to be a driver, not an owner.
And Keller got his wish. Greg Pollock has taken over as owner, and while Progressive Motorsports has yet to find a full-time sponsor, Keller knows this team is heading in the right direction.
The sponsorship deal hasn't allowed us to really go as quick as we would like to start building new cars. We're having just to race what we've got right now, and I really hope and I really pray that somebody out there is looking and seeing, well, hey, these guys are really doing good with what they've got. Let's give them that little extra boost, that financial boost. And I can tell you the owners in this deal, they're not letting us suffer too much. They're really putting forth a great effort for me, and I just don't want it to get, halfway through the season and we've got to stop that effort. It's what I really hope doesn't happen.
And with good reason. Even without a sponsor, Keller finds himself in the top 10 in points. So far this season, he's secured 7 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and coming off an impressive run at Richmond, where he started 38th and finished 6th.
Can Jason Keller win a NASCAR Busch Series race?
Definitely. Now we've got to get a little bit more consistent on the bigger racetracks, and I think that'll come more in testing and time. But some of the smaller racetracks, we've got a good hold on those, the flat tracks. Jason Keller and this Progressive Motorsports race team can win a race. Can we win a big one? We can, but is it likely? Well, we've got a little work left. We can run consistent week in and week out, and we can win some. I know we can. We're not going to give them away too much. We made a little mistake last week in the pits, but you look back, and those guys in the pits have helped me a lot. They helped me with the top 5 earlier in the year that I couldn't have got without a great pit stop. So that's all a new team coming together. But, yeah, I know I can win a race. Jason Keller's ready to win a race. Jason Keller likes to be up close to these main guys here. I don't like to be way back there. And in order to stay up here, you got to win races. That's what I'm going to do.
It is simply amazing what Jason Keller has been able to do with this team without a full-time sponsor. He's in the top 10 in points, no sponsor on the front hood of the 57 Chevy. And oh, by the way, if you're interested in sponsoring him, there's the phone number. Keller just hopes the team can survive until somebody picks up that phone.
I think they're really wanting to wait and say, hey, are these guys really for real or not? But Kenseth has done it. You look at the 4-car last year, they ran without a sponsor, and now they've got a great sponsor. A lot of people have done it. We just hope we can hold out until that time comes. This is a great
start of an organization. We just hope we can get that missing link there to put us in the category of these other race teams.
Well, thanks, Phil. Let's stay in the Busch Series. Buckshot Jones having a good year, too. He has a win already.
He does. That came at Loudon, New Hampshire, Ned, earlier in the year. And nice to see him get back to victory lane. His previous win in the Busch Series was back in Milwaukee in 1996.
And, of course, he had a good run at Dover in a Winston Cup car. Stephanie Boyd-Durner talked to him.
Even before he started making headlines over the last few weeks for his part in the Stavola Brothers racing saga, Buckshot Jones was already one of the most talked about drivers in NASCAR racing. Whether it was contending for wins, chasing titles, or stirring up controversy, the name Buckshot was constantly getting noticed. Jones scored his first career Busch Series win at Milwaukee in 1996, one of only 18 races he ran that year. Last year he ran the entire schedule, and although there were no wins, he did finish 7th in points. So heading into this season, the expectations were higher than ever, and while he did return to victory lane at Loudon last month, 5 finishes of 25th or worse have him looking to improve.
The biggest thing is I'm not real good at the qualifying. Sometimes we either qualify real good or real bad, so we've been working a lot here on qualifying a lot, so you know, we're already up there. So we can start working on that. Maybe we'll end up having a little bit better finishes. We won't maybe be involved in the back, having to chase our way back to the front.
Just last week alone, a 30th place finish at Richmond dropped Jones from 4th to 7th in points. And to cap off the weekend, he failed to make the Cup race in his second outing for Stavola Brothers Racing. Particularly disappointing since just 1 week earlier, he had taken their Chevy to an impressive 8th place finish at Dover, by far the team's best effort all season.
Dover's a pretty good track for us, but I never would have, thought we would have run that good. But, I don't know, I guess maybe midway through the race, when you kind of got a good feel for the cars, see everybody was running, I was like, well, man, maybe we can get a top 10 and we can stay out of everything. But to come out with a top 10, that was a real surprise for us.
Especially considering the fact that before getting into the 8 car at Dover, Jones had only run 1 Winston Cup race, the season finale at Atlanta last year, where he finished dead last. Plans had been for him to run 5 Cup races this year with his family-owned team before moving to Cup full-time next year. But Stavola Brothers or not, the transition from Busch to Cup is proving to be harder than he originally thought.
It's tough. It's the races are longer, but the biggest thing is it's just a lot more competitive over there. Over here it's very competitive too, but I don't know, it's hard to kind of get used to the horsepower, the weight. Everything's a little bit different. So, you need as much experience as you can in a Cup car. When we first moved from All-Pro to Busch, it was tough. The horsepower wasn't so much a big difference, but the cars were totally different. It's just going to be another transition. It's going to be probably the toughest one I've had to make so far.
While the picture may be changing as far as Jones' plans for Winston Cup this year, he does still have plenty of business to take care of in the Busch Series. Not the least of which is putting to rest the bitter rivalry that ignited last year between him and Randy LaJoie.
I don't have a problem with Randy. All that stuff's last year. He don't want it, I don't want it. We're running for the championship. I tell you, the biggest thing is the media pumps it up so much that it keeps stuff stirred up. Me and Randy have never had words, at all this year. So, I wasn't happy about what happened, but it was a racing incident, nothing intentional. And, that's just something for last year. If the media lets it die down, it'll die down.
In the meantime, Jones' #1 priority in the Busch Series is getting his program more competitive.
He's got to start finishing in the top 5 like, the guys here in the top 3 in points are right now. Sometimes they're having bad days, but they still end up, seeming, to run good. So that's what we need to do. If we're going to win this championship, we can't be finishing, out of the top 10, I don't think, much the rest of the year, because I think Mike's already got like a 200-point lead on us. So if we can finish in the top 10, for the next couple races, maybe we'll get some of those points back.
If a Grand National title is in his future, this may be his last chance. The call to Winston Cup is getting louder every day, and Buckshot Jones is ready to answer it.
Well, thanks, Stephanie. Tyler, it's hard to imagine with the schedules that these drivers keep, whether it's Busch or Winston Cup, that they find time for charitable events on occasions.
And they do, and I tell you, it's great to see them do that, Ned, because it's kind of their way of paying back to the sport, which has been so good to them.
Well, recently, many of the Busch drivers and Brett Bodine from the Winston Cup Series participated in a softball game at Cornelius, North Carolina for charity.
There were 8 teams in this tournament, and while most of the squads did it upright with slick uniforms, our team was like the guys no one else would have. A ragtag bunch of renegade players. We called ourselves the Bush Leaguers because we have mostly Bush Series drivers. Jason Jarrett, Lance Hooper, Stevie Reeves. We also had Truck Series driver Randy Tolsma, and it figures they made me manager.
You're going to play center, left, right, and short field. Can I handle that?
Question was, could we handle the defending champs, Penske South, in round 1? Well, Randy Tolsma about killed himself here trying to field the pop. But being the truck driving man he is, helped turn in a triple play.
And a triple play! A triple play by the Bush Leaguers.
And thanks to some great hitting by Hooper here, and Jarrett, Reeves, and Tolsma, we beat Penske South 7-0 as Tolsma couldn't get enough of Mother Earth.
I don't think you've ever had a concussion in a truck. Do you think you might have one by the end of tonight, though?
That's what I said earlier. I think I've hurt myself worse in softball than I ever did racing, and I'm kind of holding true to that tonight.
In Game 2, make it a sweep of Rusty and Jeremy's teams. The play of the night turned in by our catcher, Danielle Riggs, stepping up big at the plate and helping us win again 5-4. In the championship game, we met a combination of Brett Bodine's Paychex team and the Bell South team. And it was not a good fielding night for yours truly. I've definitely seen better days, and my error at short put Bodine at third with a chance to win it all with a hit. We had a chance to catch Bodine off third on the very next play, but we blew that chance too. Finally, we succumbed to defeat, only 1-0.
If we'd have won this trophy, it would have been on the Inside NASCAR set because we had a conglomeration of drivers, so many shots I couldn't figure out where to go. Congratulations.
Thanks. This is a 2-car effort, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Bell South team, Paychex team, we didn't have enough players to make one team up, so we combined our efforts and come out here with a win.
Shows, all very dedicated to the community, helping out any way they can, whether it's for MRO or for the town of Cornelius or whoever they're working with.
Ned, you saw Phil get tagged out at the plate. There was a reason he was manager and not really supposed to play because he can't play. That's the bottom line.
Boy, he came in here with his knees all skinned up. He was in bad shape. Hey, we need to take a break right now. There's lots more to come on this edition of Inside NASCAR right after this. Welcome back to Inside NASCAR here on TNN. NASCAR is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And Dave Marcus has been around NASCAR for a good portion of that 50 years. And so part of the celebration, we take a look at his career.
Dave Marcus, the last of the old-time independents. He ran his very first race in Daytona back in 1968. He took his first win at Martinsville in 1975, and then in 1976, he won 3 more times at Richmond, Atlanta, and Talladega. His last victory was in 1982 at the old Richmond Fairgrounds track. The race was fairly mild with only 6 cautions. However, one included Marcus when he tangled with Joe Milliken driving the 50. By lap 250, heavy rains fell, causing the race to be shortened, and Dave Marcus was on top, taking his 5th and again his final Winston Cup victory. Over the years, Dave Marcus hasn't enjoyed the success that others from the old days of stock car racing have, but each and every week, Marcus is right there trying to make another show, always wearing his trademark wingtips and proving that it's not about the money, it's about living a dream. And no other driver exemplifies that more than Wisconsin native Dave Marcus.
Tyler, Dave Marcus is a great guy, and I think everybody in the sport was thrilled to see him get the Ironman Award during the big celebration in Hollywood recently.
It was terrific, Ned, and he certainly deserved it.
He certainly did. Hey, we'll be back with more on Inside NASCAR, including Going in Focus with Ernie Irvan and his crew chief, Ryan Pemberton, right after this. Ernie Irvan is in his first year of competition with the Skittles Pontiac team this year in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Now, that team is in its 2nd year. And, Tyler, a lot of people wondered how Ernie might do leaving the high-profile team of Robert Yates and going to another team.
Well, he went through a lot, Ned, in his 4.5 years with Robert Yates Racing. The highs being probably the 8 wins, the lowest point being, without question, the crash at Michigan back in 1994. How is he doing so far in this year with his Skittles team? Well, he and Ryan Pemberton are the subject of our In Focus. Things have gone about as expected for Ernie Irvan and his new MB2 Motorsports team. Through the first third of the season, Irvan has 4 top 10s, Daytona, Martinsville, Talladega, and Dover. He's thrived in the super speedways with a couple of 6th-place finishes. top 10s may demonstrate consistency, but Irvin and company have their sights set a little higher.
We're just doing everything we can to get it to the next level and be able to get our finishes up to the top 5. And, you know, because when you start finishing the top 5, then you can be in a position to win a race. So I think that it's everything I expected. The people from Skittles and M&M Mars are great to work with, and you know, Ryan and all the guys here at MB2 Motorsports has been really good to work with too.
How different is Ernie from Derek last year, and does one driver maybe favor your style more than the other?
I'm probably, Ernie and I think we work good together. He's aggressive. I'm kind of conservative. I think it probably got us a little bit of trouble here at Richmond last weekend. But as far as driving styles, yeah, there's a different driving style there. But what we did last year versus this year, the rule changes, the spoilers, the air dams, all that stuff plays a factor in what you do from last year to this year. So it's basically we're kind of starting over again.
This time last year, the Skittles team was mired in 29th place with an average finish of 26th. This year, they're up 15 spots in the points while improving their average finish by some 8 positions.
Jay Fry is the team manager. You know, I deal with him every day, and you know, we always try to put things in perspective and try to, you know, we got to walk before we first run, and you know, if we keep doing that, then we're going to keep getting better each week. And you know, again, this team is a new team. That's something I had to look at before I chose, you know, to come to the MB2 team. I had to look at that, you know, hey, we're going to have some learning curves, and you know, Ryan's a crew chief that doesn't have a ton of experience. I was hoping that I could bring some to the plate and be able to make it where, you know, his learning curve's going to be a little less, and you know, maybe we can get this team to victory lane.
How different is your approach in your second year as crew chief for this team?
We can be a little more aggressive. We can we can be a little more relaxed, think clearer, be more aggressive in qualifying efforts and things like that. When you're in the top 20 and top 15 in points, allows you to do those kind of things. Where last year we really couldn't be aggressive or try some things because you were back there at 30th in points, and that'll get you in trouble sometimes.
How much of a difference has it made for you knowing that your future here is at least secure for the foreseeable future anyways? Because that's not something you had last year with Robert Yates.
No, it really wasn't. And, you know, I feel really comfortable about what my situation is here. You know, with the Skittles team, I feel like that, you know, I could have a long-term deal here and, you know, be able to get them to the next steps. I'm more hands-on with a lot of the decisions that are made at this team. You know, where with the 28 car, I mean, they did whatever they wanted to do, and then I was just a driver. So, you know, I feel like that I'm a hands-on, you know, driver, you know, participant in this race team.
As one of NASCAR's top 50 drivers, how did it sit with you when Robert Yates went out and got a rookie to take your spot in the 28 car? I mean, any bitterness there?
Well, I mean, again, you know, I just let their actions speak for themselves, and you know, it was really tough knowing that they missed the Charlotte race, knowing how good we have done at Charlotte before, and when they missed that race, it was really tough because all the guys on that team, they're the same guys that were working on my cars, and you know, it was really hard for them to stomach. And I know that I've established myself in this sport, and it took a lot of hard work, and I've almost given my life to be able to be one of the top 50 drivers in NASCAR. And you know, I think that's something that you got to deserve and you got to earn. And you know, I think that obviously, you know, some other people haven't done that yet.
You guys have gone through 13 races so far this season. Has that been enough time to kind of get the kinks ironed out? And are you happy with the way things are going, or is that kind of a barometer as to what we'll see for the rest of '98?
Well, I'm not happy with what we've done so far, or satisfied. I think that we'll have to be better going to these racetracks the second time around. And it's kind of like right now we've been to some short tracks, some intermediate stuff, some speedways, and now we have some data to go back to these races in the fall. I think we're consistently a top 10 car, even if we don't have the finishes in the top 10. We know that we're running 7th or running 10th. It's just one step away, and I think the second half of the year is going to bring that to us.
It's been a couple years since Ernie last finished in the top 10. Ned, it's been 7 years since he last finished in the top 5. That was 1991, the only year he's finished in the top 5. Now, that may not happen this year, but he hopes to get this team progressing to that point in the near future.
Yeah, they do seem to be building and gaining momentum, so maybe they do have a lot of good things in the horizon. We'll be back with the mailbox right after this.
Sitting 1-2 in Winston Cup seems to agree with Jeremy Mayfield and Rusty Wallace.
I think that's probably our biggest asset we got, is he and I both know that it's up to us too, you know, and our car owners are at the top, but you know, Rusty and myself, we're the ones that's got to make it all work, and it trickles down from there.
In '98, they're the team the big guns in Cup are after. We'll go in focus with the boys in blue next week, Inside NASCAR.
The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Lite. Our question today is from Mark Samulon from Columbia, South Carolina. How are the tracks measured? Is it determined from the outside, the inside, the middle, or in the groove?
Hi, I'm Jeff Motley, NASCAR's Manager of Communications. Mark, to answer your question about how racetracks are measured, the standard traditional measurement has been taken 10 feet off the inside line. However, now surveyors are used by each individual racetrack to measure the track's official length, and as the track's numbers from the surveyor, the NASCAR uses to establish the official length of the racetrack. Thanks for writing in.
If you have a question for the Inside NASCAR mailbox, write us at Inside NASCAR, Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. Or email us at inside.nascar@sunbeltvideo.com. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Lite jacket and a cap and shirt from Chase Authentics, the authentic trackside apparel of NASCAR.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this show. We hope you enjoyed it. Tyler will go from Michigan to Pocono next week.
I'm looking forward to it. Back on the road, out of the studio, Ned, and the defending champs of both those races last year, Jeff Gordon and Dale Jarrett.
And they'll be tough again. Hey, you join us again here on TNN for more on the Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR is brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that whenever you feel good, it's Miller time. Visit, experience, shop Simpson World, a racer and race fan superstore. Now open in Mooresville, North Carolina, Indianapolis, Indiana, Torrance, California, and opening soon in Hershey, Pennsylvania. For more information, visit our website at simpsonraceproducts.com. Ground transportation is provided by Glavelle, the official van conversion company of NASCAR. Glavelle, the choice of NASCAR tracks, teams, and drivers. Call 800-445-2825 for a dealer near you. Communications provided by Racing Radios, the two-way radio provider of the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, Busch Series, and Craftsman Truck Series.